JJ the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. Wanted to give you a video on some things I was talking to my clients today, November 17th, about what's going on with the PPP and year-end tax planning. So nothing really new here other than now a real sense of urgency for you to really take a look at what that PPP adjustment is going to be as it relates to affecting your taxes. So there's some speculation that I'm going to add to this, but here's where we're at right now with the IRS. And that is that the IRS has indicated that if you got PPP, whatever amount is forgiven, that amount will reduce down the expenses of whatever it is that you spent the money on. So of course, these would be covered expenses. What does that really mean though? If you got $20,000 of PPP and it's for your employees' wages. So when you got the PPP, you take your wages, right? Divided by 12 times 2.5, that was your PPP amount. Of course, we know we got to add health insurance as well as retirement benefits and state unemployment tax. But you were to take that, divide it by 12 times 2.5. Well, when you're looking at your covered expenses, we know that that's the payroll, including the health insurance, the retirement, state unemployment tax, rent, utilities, interest on business loans that are collateralized by business assets. And it might be important, which I'm going to address to you, to really know how much of that forgiveness was payroll, was rent, was utilities, was interest. But let me tackle first the big aspect of this video, which is whatever that dollar amount is of PPP forgiveness, the IRS has indicated that that will be a offset to your expenses. So if you got $20,000 and you use the $20,000 on the covered expenses that I just indicated, you're going to have a $20,000 adjustment on your profit and loss, or you're going to have a $20,000 adjustment on your tax return. Side note, if you noticed, I'm talking about employers that got PPP for wages that are paid. So if you are a self-employed individual, self-employed only defined as filing a Schedule C, a Schedule F. If you're filing those forms, this won't apply to you unless you have employees. And then if you have employees that you're paying wages to, this portion of what I'm going to continue to talk about does apply to you. I do want to just mention that it doesn't matter if you're a single member LLC, a sole proprietor, self-employed, a gig worker, sole proprietor, whatever. If you're filing a Schedule C, you're self-employed, this would not apply to you based on you getting PPP of your net income of Schedule C. So this is for the employers. So with that being said, now talking about this tax adjustment. Right now, the IRS indicates, and I'll put a link to this IRS notice that was put out. You can read it for yourself. But what was indicated is that when you receive money from PPP, just like any other time that you would receive money from the government, federal or state, whatever you use the money for, you don't get to deduct those expenses. It's not income. The CARES Act made it clear that it's not income. The IRS recognizes that in the notice, the IRS notice that they put on there. They dissect it, but what they go on to state, which is consistent with what they've done in the past, whatever it is that is forgiven, you have to then adjust, reduce your tax deductions by that amount. So you get $20,000 of PPP, you use the $20,000 in covered expenses, you get $20,000 forgiven, then you're going to reduce down your expenses for tax purposes by $20,000. How? Well, in the simplest way, it would be on page 1 of your Form 1120S, your Form 1065, or your 1120, that's a C Corp, S Corp, or partnership, where you would show your other deductions. There would be a negative deduction. Sounds weird, but it'd be a negative reduction. It'd be a reduction of your deductions. So yeah, while it's not income, meaning it doesn't go in the top line, it sure acts like and really ultimately results in essence, it being income. So let me be clear on this. CARES Act says it's not income. The IRS says it's not income. The IRS has indicated, though, any expenses you will have to reduce down to the extent of whatever your forgiveness is. So are you taking that into account when you're determining your year-end tax planning? Your year-end tax planning as it relates to how many dollars do you have to pay in estimated tax payments come January 15th? Should you push or pull expenses and income, of course, all legally? So when you're looking at your P&L right now, so the clients I was talking to today and we're pouring over their profit and loss, we're looking at the income statement, we're looking at the net income, making any adjustments to that net income to arrive at taxable income, which is typically not being able to write off life insurance, not able to write off entertainment, and only able to write off half of meals. So we take the net income, we add those items back, but then we're also adding back whatever the PPP amount of forgiveness is going to be. Now stay with me. So if somebody has net income, of $100,000, they're looking at it, make your adjustments. You got to add back life insurance, not deductible, add back the entertainment, not deductible, add back the meals, half of them, okay, half not deductible. So 100,000 net on your P&L. You do these quick add backs, and now you're sitting at 105,000 of what I would say is taxable income. That's going to be your page 1 income on 1120, 1120S, or Form 1065, C Corp, S Corp partnership. But you're going to need to now make an additional adjustment, which is an increase to the net income. And in that example I was telling you of the 20,000, there would be an adjustment, like I did with the client today. Their net income now really for tax purposes is $125,000. So whether it goes to the top line, which is not where it's supposed to go, or it's a reduction of expenses or an add back to the net income, it all results into this. You want to make sure that the one thing you're paying attention to going into the end of the year when you're doing your tax planning is, have you made that adjustment? Now, speculation part. The IRS has indicated that you make this adjustment in the year of forgiveness. That's not speculation. That is what the IRS has indicated. We all know most likely 85 to 90% of those that got PPP are going to receive forgiveness at the SBA's approval in 2021. This is why I've been wanting my clients and have told all my clients to wait on filing for forgiveness. You really have to listen to the whole video to really capture the planning, because I'm really getting in that fine-tune planning, fine-tune, giving my clients every option. So if all you take is what I have talked about so far, you can take it off and running, be aware of it for year-end planning. If I'm a betting man, I believe the IRS is going to indicate that you will make the adjustment ultimately in the year that you had the expenses, which means the IRS would say, well, if you spent the money in 2020 from PPP, which we all would have to do to be in the covered period because it has to be before the end of this year, the 24 weeks, you would then have to make an adjustment in 2020. Let me be clear, the IRS is not saying that right now. They haven't said anything yet on it. I believe they will. And when they do, I believe, speculation, 28 years of experience, they will indicate that the adjustment is in 2020. However, If they don't tell us that before the end of the year, if the IRS doesn't make that clear before the end of the year that it's a 2020 tax adjustment, that it increases your taxable income by the amount of forgiveness, if they don't tell us that by the end of the year, for sure, if they don't tell us by January 15th, which is in a couple of months from now, but it's when fourth quarter estimated tax payments are due. Not talking about payroll tax, I'm talking about estimated tax payments for income taxes, whether it's the C or the individual. So with that being said, if we don't hear anything from the IRS until after January 15th, then I think the IRS would have to allow for the option to be, well, do you recognize it in 2020 or in 2021, assuming you didn't get forgiveness in 2020 already. So for those that are just anxious to get it over with, want to put in the application for forgiveness and you already have received the forgiveness, know this, you won't have a choice. It will be a 2020 adjustment. And for probably 90% of you, that would be probably the right year, tax strategy wise, for you to make the adjustment in 2020 when income's down. Maybe you were closed. But just know this, if you put in for forgiveness this year, you receive forgiveness from the SBA this year, you won't have any option except it will be something that will be adjusted in 2020, period, the end. By waiting to see what the IRS does, by waiting to put in an application for forgiveness in 2021, I believe that if the IRS is silent through January 15th, the IRS would almost have to allow for it to be either year because there wouldn't have been any opportunity to do any type of tax planning, tax adjustment, pay in the correct amount of tax. Meaning your net income is higher, your tax is higher. If you have to pay in estimated tax payments, that may very well be due by January 15th based on the estimated tax payment rules, law. If we get after January 15th, the IRS says, well, we're going to let you do either year, okay? That would, in my opinion, be only if you had not achieved forgiveness on or before December 31st, 2020. My thinking, okay, 28 years, the IRS caveat that they may put into that. This is the whole key why I'm telling my clients to wait till January to put in the forgiveness application. Is that the IRS may, speculation, indicate that for you to have the opportunity to make the adjustment in 2020 or 2021, you will have had to submit and receive forgiveness in 2021. See how there's a key here? Speculation. To submit the application for forgiveness in 2021, you receive forgiveness in 2021, helps ensure that if we have the option, that we are able to take it in 2021 if that's a better year to do it than 2020. That's the main reason that I'm having every single one of my clients wait. Now, for the Schedule C filer, this doesn't apply to you at all because your PPP forgiveness amount is based on your net income from 2019, which is line 31 of Schedule C, divided by 12 times 2.5. It's a calculation. That is your forgiveness amount. Got a number of videos to talk through that. Look for a playlist related to the self-employed PPP forgiveness that I'll put a link to in the body of this video. But know this, for those of you that have employees, and of course we've had 24 weeks to use that money, whether it's for the payroll, the retirement match, the employer paid health insurance, state unemployment tax, the rent, the utilities, the interest that's in the business name, collateralized by business assets. Most of you are going to achieve full forgiveness. The PPP Flexibility Act that came out in June that then extended this to not only be 24 weeks to spend the money, but also lowered the threshold that only 60% has to be used for payroll to achieve forgiveness. Most of you that are listening, hopefully, are going to achieve full forgiveness. And if you know that, then you should already know what your adjustment is. Now, the IRS doesn't know it. The SBA doesn't know it. The SBA has made it clear. The banks have made it clear that that is a loan. That is a PPP loan until it's forgiven. It is technically on your balance sheet until it is forgiven. Once it's forgiven, the loan is reduced by the forgiveness amount. What's the other side of the entry? Currently, the IRS is indicating that when you reduce down the loan for the forgiveness amount, well, the offset is a reduction in your expenses. So for many, 2020, not knowing any circumstances could really be the year that you go, you know what, I would rather it be picked up in 2020. I don't think at all, because you got to remember, I'm a practicing CPA and I'm advising clients. I don't think at all that if we submit in 2021 and get forgiveness in 2021, that locks us into 2021. The argument behind that is, for my clients that are going to submit in 2021, they'll achieve full forgiveness in 2021. The reason that we would be able to take the option of a 2020 is that my clients, most likely most of you, unless you're a C corporation that's grossing over $25 million, most of you, your businesses are cash basis. So in cash basis, I feel strongly as in guaranteed that with my clients, I'll be able to reduce down 2020 if need be, if that's the benefit to them, even though we submitted the application in 2021 and got forgiveness in 2021, because that is the year that the expenses were incurred and paid. Those were the expenses that PPP used. So the offset, the matching of it makes absolute total sense. It is embedded into the tax law that you would match those things up. Now, if you recall earlier in the video, I said, if I'm a betting man, the IRS will say, you know what, no matter when you apply for forgiveness, no matter when you achieve forgiveness, you will have to reduce down your 2020 expenses. That's really where they may end up on that. And how would we know that? Well, they would make that determination on or before January 15th of 2021. Because we would then know, okay, here's the adjustment. Now, we could say we didn't know because the SBA hadn't made a judgment, if you will, on the forgiveness amount, but that would put it on you as the taxpayer to then know or estimate or have a really great idea, well, how much do you expect the SBA to forgive? And then that would need to be your adjustment. But see, guess what? Boy, that's a lot of moving parts that if we don't have a definitive answer on which year it has to be picked up by January 15th, if the IRS just keeps the information where it is now, which is it's in the year of forgiveness, based on that alone, I feel like I could do it either year with my clients. With absent no additional information from the IRS, all day long, I could do it in 2020 or 2021 for my client, absent anything else from the IRS. I can go the cash basis route and say, well, they incurred it, they paid it in 2020. That's when those expenses were. That's when PPP was used. I'm going to make the adjustment on 2020. I can also say, well, in the year of forgiveness, IRS, you indicated that's when the adjustment is. So that's why we made the adjustment in 2021. The IRS will come out with additional information on this. They're not going to stay silent. The thing to note here is that the IRS is only taking a position that is consistent with the history of the IRS laws, that if you get money from the government, as I had told you earlier, if you don't have to pay it back, then whatever that money is that you got from the government, you don't get to write off those expenses. This isn't something that the IRS came up with just related to PPP. They've taken existing law and applied it to PPP. Now, the good news is, in my opinion, is that at the end of the IRS's notice, they indicate that this will not change unless it is by the act of Congress. Now, many of us may use that kind of in a kidding way, like, well, it's an act of Congress to be able to. But when the IRS typically uses that, just historically, basically the IRS has put together this notice not only for us as the taxpayer and the tax preparers, but also for Congress. They said, hey, Congress, you put in the CARES Act that this is not income. We agree with it. It's not income. It's not a top line item on a tax return, not income. However, IRS says, under this code section and when this and precedent and blah, 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 any monies that are forgiven, those expenses that were used from PPP funds have to be reduced for tax purposes. So they laid it all out for Congress to say, here's how it's going to work. Here's how the law is showing this will be affecting everybody's taxes. And when they say at the end, only way this changes is by an act of Congress, it's definitely a tee-up for a home run hit, hopefully by Congress, to go, okay, we get it. Yes, Congress, hopefully, they have not, pure speculation, but Congress would say, you know what? We are going to indicate that that is not an adjustment for tax purposes. The intent of the CARES Act, I believe, when the good folks in Congress were putting that CARES Act together that included the PPP and indicated this is not meant to be income, I believe the intent of Congress was that it would not have a tax effect. But the IRS said, hey, thanks for clarifying that it's not income in the CARES Act, Congress, thank you. But nonetheless, you didn't address the fact of the matter, that is, if we're giving money to businesses and it's getting forgiven, that will lead to a reduction of those expenses for tax purposes and in essence leads to a tax effect. Yes. So I was visiting with a great friend, great client today, been a client for over 22 years. And it just was something that was taking a minute for him to grasp. And I get it. It's like, wait a second, it's not income, but it increases my net income. Tell me how that does that again. Well, you brought in $1 million. You had $900,000 in expenses, so you have a $100,000 net income. Add back the life insurance, the entertainment, half of the meals, and now we're looking at a net $105,000 for tax purposes. But you got PPP for having employees, 20 grand. It all gets forgiven. That adjustment is going to be a $20,000 adjustment, meaning of the $900,000 in expenses, 20,000 of them will not be deductible. 20,000 of them is not includable. So in that example, the net income for tax purposes is $125,000. Net income from the P&L plus the non-deductible amounts plus the PPP forgiveness amount. Now you may ask, and you wouldn't be wrong to say, well, wait a second. How are we supposed to know what it is that IRS is supposed to do? How is it that we're supposed to know what Congress is going to do? JJ, what are you telling your clients right now? What I'm telling my clients right now is assume the adjustment will be in 2020. Assume it when you're doing your year-end planning. Assume it in determining should you prepay some expenses if that works for you. Assume it if you're trying to figure out, well, should I delay some billing so that collections hit in 2021? There's a lot of year-end planning that can go into place. Should I buy an asset this year or vehicle? You know, what should I do for year-end planning? Point is, take that into account and assume it's for 2020. It's the conservative approach. Take it into account when you're figuring out what you've got to pay by January 15th. Assume it's going to be an adjustment in 2020. The speculation, again, as a quick recap is, well, the IRS hasn't indicated if we can do it in 2021. What the IRS has indicated is that it's a tax adjustment in the year of forgiveness. Well, for most, that's in 2021. The other aspect of this speculation is that Congress may say, you know what? No, this is not going to have a tax effect. So it is meant to be, here's money to help businesses, no tax adjustment. The IRS has indicated that results in a double benefit. But let me tell you this, and I'm glad that you made it to here. I'm glad that you made it to here. You know, I haven't put together a video in about maybe 8-9 days because there really hasn't been anything new. Want to put together this video because of what I'm talking to clients about. But I'm glad you made it to here because the biggest aspect of this, all politics aside, right? Washington is affected by politics. The IRS is interpreting Congress and their laws that are put together by Republicans and Democrats and independents and the president and the House and the Senate. Those are put together. The IRS now interpret those. So it's not possible to talk about tax law without mentioning Congress. Right now, November 17th, we know that there are things going on in the political world. Please don't comment about it in this video because it's irrelevant to what this video is about. But what I want you to take note of is the political environment right now. There's nothing going on with the stimulus negotiations. Why is that important? The reason that's important is that it will be in the next Stimulus Act. If there's going to be automatic forgiveness, we would know it in the next Stimulus Act. If it's not in the next Stimulus Act, I don't know when it would be that Congress would decide that there would be some automatic forgiveness or blanket forgiveness. So the stimulus negotiations, or more importantly, the Stimulus Act that should come about at some point, is key to know how the effect will be to PPP as it relates to any kind of blanket forgiveness. And two, if Congress is going to say, hey, IRS, thank you for teeing that up for us. And I'm not even saying that sarcastically. Thank you for teeing that up. Thank you for letting us know the response. So now we know what the effect is. And in the next stimulus, if they're going to indicate this doesn't have a tax effect, we would know in the next stimulus. That's another reason that I'm telling my clients, we're going to wait. We need more information to put in the PPP forgiveness application. We get 10 months from the end of the covered period to even put in the forgiveness application. We know that they've come out with 3 additional applications based on how much money you received in PPP, and they've made it easier and easier and easier. I mean, right now there's Form 3508S. If you got $50,000 or less, it doesn't even matter about FTEs or salary reductions. You're literally exempt from it. 3508S says you don't even have to provide a calculation to the bank. You provide documentation to support your expenses, but you just put down the amount of forgiveness on the 3508S. It's just getting easier. Okay? So I don't see any downfall in waiting. Now, for those that just want to get it over with, then get it over with, you know. I'm talking finite, full planning, every advantage, making sure we have all the information we possibly can before we file for forgiveness. Now, I will tell you this. For my clients, we are filing for forgiveness in January. All of them, not going to wait. There would be no real reason to wait. Even if Congress later says, hey, there's automatic blanket forgiveness, and my client put in the application for forgiveness, so specific to my client, it would make no difference because my clients are going to get full forgiveness, period. I don't need blanket forgiveness, at least on my clients. Every single one of them is getting 100% full forgiveness. So I don't have to wait for the blanket forgiveness, but that one caveat, putting in the application in January, getting that then submitted in 2021, getting the forgiveness in 2021, if the IRS gives us a fine line requirement to be able to pick which year, I think that could be the one defining thing that you submitted and received forgiveness in 2021. It's speculation. Now, stay tuned to 2 things. I haven't put out a video in the last, 7-8 days But if you'll notice, I am putting stuff on my community page on YouTube. So if you're not familiar with it, go to my main page, and at the top, you'll see community, click on it, and you'll see the post. What am I doing there? I am putting some positive things in there that are similar to what I'm putting on Facebook or Instagram, just some positive words and a positive picture. But I'm also putting on there things that don't really require a video. A quick update to let you know, here's what's in the headlines, but here's why you don't really need a video on it. Or here's what's in the headlines, it sounds sexy, but it's not, it means nothing. Or here's what's in the headlines, someone may be saying this in another video, but here's the reality of it. So be checking out my community posts, and then also be looking at my story. So if you're at my main YouTube page and you see the circle that says JJ the CPA on it in yellow with my face, just a little circle, you click on that and the story comes up. Or you can find the story in my video feed. Now the thing to note is that by putting it on the community page and putting it on the story, you don't have to watch any ads. I do get 1/10 of a penny for your view. I appreciate that. But my point in saying that is that when I put it on the community page and the story page, that is my commitment to my subscribers that, okay, here's a little bit of information that you need to know. It doesn't really require a video. So to get the full encompassing amount of information from me, JJ the CPA, don't just look at the videos, look at the community page as well as the story. The story is just 15 seconds. Now, with that being said, if you made it to here and you're not a subscriber, please do me a favor and subscribe. I don't make any money off of that. Not that that really matters, but it helps the algorithm. I'm a CPA. I love to see numbers. It also tells me that I'm putting together videos that are of value. I do want you to pay attention to my channel because as things come out, I have a proven track record that I've got videos that come out right away. What is the difference with my channel? I'm a practicing CPA and I'm advising clients on these very issues. I'm not putting together videos really for you, even though I love you and I am putting together videos for you. But first and foremost, any video that I'm putting together, I know my clients are watching them. They're relying on them. Now, I do talk to my clients, I call them, I meet with them, et cetera, but I know that my clients are now using my videos as a resource. So when I'm putting together a video and I'm putting it out there for a client, and you're then seeing that same information, you should know that there's a little higher standard maybe compared to some that are putting on videos related to these issues. These are serious issues. These are, I think, things you want to rely on with somebody that is eyeing the law, aware of the law, not just aware of what's being read and then telling you what it says in an FAQ, but making interpretations, letting you know what is to come, getting you thinking through certain aspects. PPP, okay, is only black and white, if you will, for the Schedule C, Schedule F filer. If you've made it to here and you're self-employed and you file a Schedule C and you file a Schedule F and you have 0 employees, it's black and white for you in the sense that has no tax effect on you because it's based on your net income. No tax effect to you. Why would you wait if it has no tax effect? Because of what I indicated earlier. What if you got too much? What if there's blanket forgiveness? So here's the deal. Your bank's down with it. You got, as a self-employed, Schedule C, Schedule F, you had, here's what I filed with the IRS for 2019, line 31 of Schedule C, divided by 12 times 2.5. That's the amount I got. That's the amount of my forgiveness. My bank's not hassling me for anything. They just want my Schedule C. They do the calculation. Here's my Form 35OS. And I'm done. Great. But that's a pretty narrow scope, starting with a bank that's caught up with the rules. Many banks aren't even taking the applications right now. Some of the banks are taking them, but they haven't caught up to even have their systems set up to take 3508S, or they're still confused, unfortunately, by, well, what does a self-employed have to provide to achieve forgiveness? So if you've seen in my videos, it's just, wait. There's no harm in waiting. There's only advantage in waiting. But take into account this tax adjustment that is coming at us like a freight train. And if we are absent any additional information, the conservative approach is assume the adjustment is in 2021. I'm hoping we have the choice. I hope there's some blanket forgiveness, and I'm hoping that there is no tax adjustment. I'll say this in closing. If you put in PPP forgiveness and whatever reasoning you don't get full forgiveness, and later they do blanket forgiveness under a certain dollar amount, it would be retroactive back to you. Why deal with that hassle? So if you are under 150,000, you don't feel you're going to get full forgiveness for whatever reason, might be some benefit to wait. Why? Avoid paperwork hassle later. You want to get that loan off your books by the end of the year, then you must be an accountant that doesn't want to see it on the balance sheet, because most small business owners don't even really care about the balance sheet. So I'm saying that as a compliment, but there's no harm in waiting. There's no real harm in filing now. You're going to be locked into 2020, right? So for me, what I'm telling my clients is, let's plan on year-end tax planning, including the adjustment for PPP forgiveness being in 2020. Conservative approach. I hope for the other things. Stay tuned. Please subscribe if not already. Check out my community page and my story, also on Facebook, as I indicated. Yeah, I think I got everything out. All right, hey, don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me. Hey, thanks for tuning in, and have a great night, great day, great morning, depending on when you saw this. All right, talk to you soon.